Tensions flare as lawmakers from both sides of the aisle clash over extending subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. House Republicans and Democrats collided Wednesday over the future of Obamacare subsidies, as new data reveals massive fraud in the system.
The Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office has revealed the ugly, ugly truth. They tested the ACA, and the ACA failed. The GAO created fake applicants. Get this. They created fake applicants using fictitious identities, missing documents, and questionable personal information. The system approved them all.
Democrat Representative Jamie Raskin claimed millions could face higher premiums if tax credits expire. But Republicans say the real crisis is billions of taxpayer dollars going to people who should never have been enrolled in the first place. A Joint Economic Committee report found up to 6.4 million ineligible enrollees received full subsidized coverage in 2025, costing taxpayers an estimated $27 billion.
Obamacare as a whole, it's broken. After 15 years, it's broken. Despite generous taxpayer subsidies, it has not made health care more affordable. It has not shown evidence of a program that has any integrity, and it has only further enriched large health insurance companies.
Data.
How is it going out there, my fellow world patriots? It seems like only just a few hours ago I was just live with my friends on Table at Time. Oh, yes, it was. About 12 hours ago. But we're going to have Mr. Juanito jumping in shortly. He's just gotten off a plane a little while ago, and he's getting to a location. So he said he'd be on in about 5 minutes or so. But this is interesting that they're finding $27 billion in Obamacare fraud. So it looks like they're chipping away at all of these little avenues that these people are defrauding the taxpayers of our wonderful country. So, before we get too much further, let me say hello to some of the folks in the chat today. Let me see if I can get into Rumble Studio here. This will give me all the chats. That way I can see everybody. There we go. Wheezy Girl, what's up? Uh-oh, she tagging me. What's going on? What's going on? Is there a problem? Is there a problem? Oh, no. Okay, nope. All right. We got... So I can only see Rumble, apparently. I got a Rumble. I got an echo. I got to hear this one. Hear it. I only see Rumble, apparently. I got a Rumble. I got an echo. Ah, weird. Let's see what's going on here. Again, why does it want to do this? There we go. That should be a little bit better. And again, I don't know if I have to turn this computer back in. I think it's possessed, guys. I really do. This thing is basically brand new microphone, and this thing, for some reason, unhooked and connected to my laptop microphone again. Go figure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I could definitely hear it when I was playing it in the replay. But thank you there, Weezy. Yeah. It definitely did its little thing there. But anyways, let's see how the folks are doing. We got Diane, Foxy Blue, Bell Ringer 17, Chris Shouse, Wheezy Girl, Therese 67, Into It. Who are you? There we go. I'll mess that one up a little bit. Let me see. We got Kegel over here as well. And yeah, we're gonna have a little interesting update about Tina Peters today, and what the possible options and possible things they're going to do about this. We got Patriot Chick, RYTV Dinner, St. Cosmic Dildo, Susie Q. I don't know from which ones for these are from last night and whatever, but thank you guys all for hanging out with us. But this post that I was showing you guys here, that video that we were starting with, basically talks about Obamacare, right? And I got to make sure eye on Juan. I think it'll give me a notification. But timing is everything. When you already know what the Democrats are going to go all in on, pushing for the continuation and increase in Obamacare, quote, subsidies paid for by taxpayers that allows you to set the table and prepare the battlefield in the narrative war. How do you expose all the fraud in Obamacare? Allow the enemy to walk through the front door, wait for them to go all in with a government shutdown, and then set a date for a vote in order to get full exposure in Congress. Then, right before that vote in congressional hearings, drop a bomb on the narrative battlefield with a GAO report on a long-time investigation that exposes all the fraud in Obamacare subsidies program. And this is the link to that video that we just played. And if you guys noticed, they set up fake accounts, right? What were the other ones I was seeing? I think on Table of Titans, was I getting this right, where they were actually using Barbie dolls? Like literal dolls for, I think those were PPE loans. But still, I mean, the amount of the gall for somebody to be like, oh yeah, hey, we need a photo of you so we can process, your monthly funds. The gall that you would have to actually put in a picture of a doll. It's like, might as well have took a picture of a middle finger and put it on there and uploaded it. You know what I mean? It's just as bad. So very interesting stuff here. So I don't want to kill, Juan's lead here on the stuff, but he's going to talk about essentially, we already know as of yesterday that the attorney general in that state is basically saying like, nope, she's not getting out. We're not letting her out. So he's going to go over different options and possible ways that we can get her out of there legally. So he'll be coming in a little bit, like I said. So $27 billion in fraud, guys. Phantom enrollment and money laundering for Democrats. $27 billion. That is just an unreal amount of money. This GAO report has now completely disarmed the Democrats and turned the table. Democrats are now forced into the position, once again, of defending, quote, fraud and demanding that it continue with no safeguards for the taxpayers' money. It's almost too easy, right? And then Merriam-Webster's definitions of a trap, that was from the drops. Very interesting. What are you guys thinking about this stuff out there? About the fraud that's being exposed left and right all over the place? Not only in this area, but like we mentioned, PPP loans. I mean, it is absolutely everywhere, and the fraud is being uncovered like at record pace. So, like I've said, it to me, not being part of like what they're planning on doing exactly here and trying to take my best assumption as what they're doing, I can clearly see they're going after the funding for the deep state. That's very clear. They're taking out all the all the avenues of fraud and abuse and waste and all this extra money that they get to run their little illegal activities. Well, once you don't have all that money, it becomes much more difficult to be doing things like that. So, see what the prevailing thoughts are on the chats. What are you guys up to? You guys having a great Friday here? It is Friday, right? My days are just mixing together. We got a beautiful day, nice and sunny. But it's a balmy, and I say that jokingly, 36 degrees out. When we're going to have a low of 18 on Sunday and a low of 13 on Monday. So that's going to be extra special for sure. So I hope you guys are having a little bit better weather than I am. Because it's going to, I don't know. And again, I still can't get an answer, guys. Guys, girls, guys out there. A cold pre-winter, does that equal a cold winter or does that equal a mild winter? And Juan just texted, he said he'd be ready in about 3 minutes. And I wanted to ask you guys, what does most of my chat think? Specifically about the Candace versus Turning Point USA thing. I wonder what you guys have to say, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are basically saying, oh, screw Candace, I can't believe what a horrible person she is. You have people saying, I hope she gets bankrupted and da-da-da-da-da. And my position is like, I don't believe the official narrative, like not 1% of it, right? Like not even close to 1% of it. And you can look at this in a few different ways, right? Like, okay, Charlie had a little situation there, and she was friends with him, and she wants to get the information out, and she wants to find out, who did it, right? Also, you could look at this as like a big blinking neon light if we were kind of putting this into a script of a movie where we're highlighting certain countries that may be needing to get exposed. That could also be another angle you could go with, right? Then you could go with, well, I just think she's a horrible person and she's trying to enrich herself, but I'm very interested to see what a majority of you wonderful world patriots out there think. So please leave your comment in the chat about that particular situation, and I want to read some chats here as we go along. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. See, anybody got any? The fighting, not moved by it, it just unlocks the facts. Yeah, I mean, and then Dennis the Menace says, love Candace. Maximus Deplorabilis says, I'm stepping back to see where the drama goes. Yeah. Mocha 0221, 32 in Indy, headed down to 0. Yeah. Had snow last night. Pretty windy. Wintry weather. Yeah, and, I'm of the belief if it's going to be cold, we might as well have some snow, Oh, Therese 67 says we're supposed to be -8 tomorrow. Yeah. Let's see. Big EDKC says, hey, Mike, go on YouTube and look up Rayon Hall. He did a whole video about the winter, and he said it's going to be a very cold and above average snowfall. Everything is lining up for a rough winter. I mean, I could see that as well. Might as well, like I said, it might as well have snow if it's going to be cold, right? And that's the way I look at it. Yeah, you're going to have to shovel a little bit, but if it's winter, you might as well have the snowy weather to go with it. Ngolio over here on I'll pull up the D Live so you guys, I didn't see any comments in D Live about that just yet, and I got the YouTube and the Rumble chat on my studio here. Zuzu Q 3044 says, I don't believe the story of Charlie's assassination. I don't think a lot of people will agree with that statement there, Zuzu. Cisco says, I like my psyops with extra butter. Love it. Oh, -12 in Indiana there. Josiane. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's bad. Got a ton of snow last week, Therese says. Scott Poole, 5284, saving a certain small hat wearing country for last. Aha, I get it. Saving Israel for last, yeah. Flooding in Washington State, Joe Huck says over there. Zuzu Q, I don't trust Candace, but I don't trust Erica either. I just want the truth. Well, maybe I should admit. Hopefully this content creator doesn't care that I take a little bit of his content here on the YouTube. Hopefully I don't get a copyright strike here, but let's see. How is it going out there? That's a familiar voice, huh? So when it got to, where was it? Did I have her part in here? Yeah, this part right here, she's basically, I was dumbfounded. When I saw this the other day, I was like, okay, so for me, she's taking sides, meaning Erica. Because essentially she says, I want these people to stop with their conspiracy theories, and the people that are attacking the people that I love, the people that I love, my Turning Point USA family. And let's see. Mr. Juanito is here. Mr. Juanito is on the second screen, so he's all good for now. But yeah, I thought that was very weird the way that she came out and she was like, "You people are attacking my Turning Point family," and I'm like, "Oh no, I don't like that." So we'll see how the drama with Candace and Erica goes. They're supposed to be having a sit down. I don't know if that's gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen on the 15th, but maybe they'll do it. But they wanted her to go there in person, which I thought was interesting because, as I mentioned in this video, me and Hulk from California and Ardok in the Czech Republic last night and Tron in the center of the country, we're all able to do, videos together. Juan is, I don't even know where he is. He got off an airplane an hour ago or so, but he's in a different place than I am, but we're able to chat by voice, so I don't see what the problem is. But when she comes out and says, basically, you're attacking my Turning Point family, the people I love, my question becomes, well, regardless of who you think your friends and family are, don't you want the truth of who killed your husband, out in the public? And so for me, Erica took a little bit of a turn yesterday, but again, all popcorn perhaps, because, we're here, Candace had, for a while, 5.5, as a lot of this stuff was starting to unroll. I think she's at 5.57 now. Let me see. Candace Owens, here we go. Yeah, she's at 5.67 now. But when all this stuff started, if you actually went down there and look into her channel, she was at 5.55 million subscribers. Loud and clear, 5x5. I don't know. So big blinking light, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Big blinking light. One specific country, but then she kind of pivots and goes off to France. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. Let's see. So see if I can pull up any Tina Peters posts here. Ito's getting his set up. Let's see. Got. Oh, I heard something. Something I heard there for a second.
Yeah, I think I was trying to talk to you, but I had it on mute. It wasn't cooperating for a minute there.
Oh, space mute. I'm like an expert at that one. I patented that.
Well, because in space.
Oh boy!
Remember the alien? Oh my gosh! I saw that alien movie. I had a bunch of gals with me. I was the only guy, and I don't remember why, but I had a bunch of them from some kind of a meeting or something I was having. So I had no clue what this movie was about. I'd never heard anything about it. That was on the thing. It sounded like fun, and so we went. And I got to tell you, those girls screamed when that alien came out of the chest. Oh no, my gosh.
That's the worst. Yeah, that is back then too. And then when you watch movies like that now, like I was going to watch, try to scare my son and watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I'm like, it's creepy, but it's just not scary as, what you were when you were little. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
And Juan, this is funny. So I want to make note of something that you're probably not noticing, but the people in the chat are probably noticing. On your dashboard above your second small cluster, there is what looks like on our end, and I only noticed this like a couple months ago, because of the way the video camera is picking it up. It's picking it up like it's flashing, and I only noticed this because, and actually your clock is on the right side, but you won't notice that. And I did this a few months ago. Me and my buddy were driving home, and we had this beautiful done up classic Mustang done up. And so I recorded it at a red light, and I followed it. As we followed it, I recorded it for a couple minutes. And then when I watched the playback later on, I'm like, wait, why are these lights all blinky? So it's like the LEDs are not syncing up with the camera. So if anybody's wondering, he's not stealing a car that I'm aware of anyway. Let me see. I'll take you off. I got the camera blocked, so you're good for the moment. But yeah, that's basically what does that. The LEDs don't sync up with the way the camera works, and essentially it basically makes it look like it blinking. So pretty cool. Just so you guys don't think he's actually trying to steal somebody's car or whatever. But Mr. Juanito, we got a situation here with I explained to my audience, I believe what it comes down, the crux of it comes down to the argument of, the definition of the United States. Is I correct at the end of that?
Well, as far as Tina Peters, you mean?
Oh yeah,
what
yes.
the definition?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what it is that at some point in time in her specific case, there was a deviation post-Lincoln where some adjustment, states' rights, federal rights, etc., began to be interpreted that states had some level of sovereignty that just wasn't accurate. The United States of America, the president is president over all of them. And so the power to commute sentences, to pardon, etc., while it's there at the governor's level, it also exists at the presidential level. And so Trump can assert that. And there's a lot of people saying, no, you can't overturn what's going on from a state side. Well, the other part of this is, okay, you're in a catch-22, Colorado, because Tina Peters was protecting and working under federal authority. Here's something that's virtually, like 10 people in the whole country know this. Okay, I'm going to tell your audience now, it'll be a couple thousand. The clerk in running an election, even a local election, but precisely, specifically, anything involving federal offices, president, legislators, U.S. Congress legislators, and Senate, they're not working for the county solely, and they're not working for the state solely. Their overriding authority, their highest authority in conducting a federal election at the county level, they are answerable to the U.S. the U.S. Congress. And if you remember, of course, what was January 6th all about? That was where all of the states came in and reported what, with their electoral representatives, what they had found within the state ballot, county ballots, etc. They come in and they cast their votes for the presidency. Well, those clerks out at the county level are actually responsible to and working for, within a federal election, the U.S. Congress. They are doing a federal duty. So saying that President Trump cannot intercede and say that whatever the state did was improper, or I'm just going to stop it and commute it or pardon it, is totally within the right of the president in this particular matter. The case was improperly adjudicated in the first place when she was obeying federal election laws. And so on numerous grounds, and by the way, they offered 41 times that they wanted to enter evidence, 41 motions, and the judge denied all of them that would have shown this, that she was operating under federal authorities. The judge just wanted to railroad this through. Even his sentencing shows just how biased he was. So at the end of the day, Trump can pardon Tina. But if Colorado wants to make a big stink, all they're going to do is the same thing has happened when they challenged that Trump had to be removed off of the ballot in Colorado. In the whole country, Colorado led the way to have Trump taken off the ballot for 2024. It ran through the courts very quickly because it was an election-related matter and time was of the essence. And so all of the courts prior to the Supreme Court said, yep, Colorado can remove the president from the ballot, and there's nothing that Trump or any of his people can do about it, and laughed. They got the Supreme Court, and it wasn't just, name a Supreme Court decision that's not, 6-9 at the most, 5-4, to get 7-2 is a rarity. But this was a unanimous 9-0. They couldn't even get one of these ultra-liberal justices to vote in their favor in Colorado. 9-0, Trump's on the ballot. Now he's president. And they think they're going to win on this. There was, hesitancy because the president's advisors didn't want to go into this battle. And the president, had people saying, no, you can do it, you can do it. Well, he's not an attorney. So he, got more opinions, went out, shopped. I had said numerous times, including on your show, just figure it out, please, Mr. President, just figure it out. And he got the other ones that came back, looked at it, reviewed it at various locations, private law firms, and government positions. And they came back and said, yes, you can pardon her. This is all bullshit. It's going to get resolved in the appeals process. Anyway, eventually they got an appeal thing coming up in January that she'll probably prevail at that. But, she has this health issue. And so that makes it necessary to make it happen faster. But there's one other thing I want to add in here, and that is President Trump is going to, as I told your audience the other day, he's going to declare a national emergency regarding elections, similar to, think of what happened when he declared a national emergency regarding COVID. Then within a day or two, he might even do it at the same time, but I don't think so. I think it'll delay by a day or two. He's going to issue an executive order. He's referenced it already and said, yeah, I've got one I'm going to sign. The attorneys are working away on it. There was one that was written up as a proposed executive order before he was elected into office. I saw it. I thought it was inadequate to the task. And so I asked a team of folks within our coalition that have subject matter expertise to put something together. They put together an amazing 17-page proposed executive order. That's been on the president's desk for about 6 months. And as we understand it, he's going to use it. The legal team is going to use it. I've heard 80, 90% of what's there. They want to change a little wording, something else here or there. We'll see what it comes out as, but he's going to sign that after he declares a national election emergency and then put out an executive order on how we're going to conduct the 2026, 2028 elections. And it's going to be stunning. It's going to be the most important thing he does in all of his service in public office. This is the hinge moment. And for that reason, I think he's going to sign it somewhere right around the winter solstice, dark to light, at this darkest moment. And everything starts coming light. And by the way, even arrest, when we're in that national election emergency, instead of all of the dithering in the courts around the country and really obstructionist activity, delaying activity, in that environment, things will move lightning fast. So, we'll see how close I am to getting it accurate, and you'll be able to give me a report card back here in a few weeks. But I think that this national election emergency, the reason I referenced that in context to Tina, whatever happens over the next week or two with Colorado, saying no way, Trump issuing this pardon, Tina's health on the line. At the moment that he declares the national election emergency and she has critical information related to that, he doesn't have to dither, play around, do anything anymore. He can just go in and grab her. And there's not a single thing any court in the country can do about it. And that's exactly what I think he's going to do. So in the meantime, is Tina safe? The other thing is this. Several days ago, beginning of the week, it was announced that there was a federal investigation started looking at prison conditions in Colorado, the way the prisons are run, the way the prisoners are treated, a literally soup to nuts examination. And so Tina, within the context of all of this, has been severely abused. And in fact, we had somebody on one of the calls yesterday that was a prisoner in the exact same prison where Tina's at and had all sorts of information about what's going on. So, we're getting quite a bit here going on what's going on in the prisons. They're going to have a rough hair day in Colorado for the next several years.
Dude, I'm liking it. And so I'm looking up that date on the old drops, and you might find some things to be pretty interesting here. And basically, it tells you future proofs past. Check the news, and these are all on the 21st. And I'm going to read to you right now. Excuse me. Basically, future proofs past, highest priority, and then this one really keyed in on me. POTUS will verify directly to provide crumbs authorization for dissemination. We are crushing these sick people. And that wasn't the actual one. The one that I was keyed in on was this one right here, where it talked about actually something you were just talking about, an executive order. So there's actually, where is it? It basically says how they were talking 2 days before about an executive order written today, but that today is December 21st, which would be winter solstice, right? That's the correct date? I'm pretty sure, right? It's always the 21st.
That's right. Yeah, that's the longest night of the year. And then on the 22nd, the days start increasing in length again, and so top dead center is the 21st. In the occult and Roman theology, the Saturnists, if you will, the sun was believed to go down and hang at this lowest point on the horizon, on the zone coming into the 21st, and then hover there, and then begin its return back up on the 25th. And so that's why you have Christmas. That's on the 25th. That's not the date that Christ was born. Christ was born 9/11 of 3 BC. But by using that occult celebration, the Saturnist high noon, if you will, that's why that date was chosen for their festivals, their solstice festivals, their Prince of Misrule, the Misrule Festival, where they would put a slave as king for early a few days, and then later for literally a month and a half, 2 months, misruling the kingdom and just having all sorts of madness. I've written articles on it, and it's out there. But anyway, so it's ending the misrule and starting things back on track, doing that at the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year, dark to light. We start this march. It's taken nearly a year now since Trump's been in office to kind of go through and do the cleanup, set the stage across the world. Most people have no concept of just how far along we are on some of the foreign relations, the tariffs, the business stuff, etc., and resetting how we run our economy. And so, as I've told your audience previously and other audiences, the two most important things that Trump will do is return honest elections and then honest money. Everything else pivots off of that. And so the honest elections is the most important thing he will have done in his entire life. So doing it with exacting precision. Why didn't he just get Tina out sooner? Why didn't he just do this? Because the system, there's so many things in play. And even trying to, keep her protected, make some maneuvers to keep the bad guys in check, like with the investigations of how things are going in Colorado, et cetera. And then finding out that she's, teetering on her health issues and like that. They had to maneuver and do some adjustments to the plan. But I believe we'll look back at this in the years to come, that this was always the intent, that this attack on the elections, 2020, it's not over yet.
It is. It's the most important thing is that we get our elections squared away going forward, because if we don't, we'll never have a good country, in the future, and we can't have any faith in those elections. And then how
Well,
much
we'll
money
be
are we saving?
ruled by people who we didn't elect, that are put there for somebody else's benefit gain purposes and not ours. And so that's why the country is going so far off track. The government that's running the country does not actually reflect the people that are being governed. And then the people that get in, they're being very proactive, and have been for a long time, essentially undermining our population with people who don't think the same way, flooding us, putting a burden on us to outer space, to where we just, can't even function. So it all starts with the elections, getting honest elections. You get honest elections, everything else starts to come into focus and move in the right direction again. So pretty epic.
Dude, you know what is hilarious, and I'm not sharing my screen with you, but I can. Let me see. I'll do it just so you can see, just for a little share and fun and show and tell here. So we did a video, myself and you. What was this? This was the 7th. So we're talking literally 5 days ago. So I'm going to pop that up on the screen here. Here's where we were talking about, and I'm muting it. Here's where we were talking about gold and silver at the end of the show. Oh my goodness. I was talking to my son yesterday. I said, oh, hey, remember that 10-ounce bar that I gave to you when it was 17? And I told you couldn't touch it and sell it until it's at least 30? He's like, yeah. I said, you know what silver's at now? He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's like 60. He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, I could have had $600 for it. I said, yeah, don't you wish there was somebody in your ear telling you to hold on to it and don't sell it for a scooter? Wink, wink, because that was me. But so here's $58 5 days ago, Juan, right? And then so I'm going to pop up on the screen now. Silver is now $61.78. I think you were predicting towards the beginning of the year we were going to be at 60, 65-ish, if I'm not mistaken. I think 60 was it?
Well,
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
The number by the end of the year that I said that we were probably going to be at was about 70. And so we pushed 66 something earlier today, and that, or last night, I guess it was. And, then the pressure comes in to kind of relieve things. So it's come down a bit this morning. But the pressure is so intense for it to go up radically still. I was talking with industry people. Silver is an industrial metal, and it's also a strategic metal. So we need it for a lot of things that, servers and things like that, solar stuff. And I was asking, what do you think the max price silver could hit before you couldn't manufacture what you manufacture right now? And they said, well, I mean, how high is up? It could go to, thousands. We'd still have to use it because there's nothing else compares to it. But what they're projecting over the next couple of years is silver 280. And so they're making all of their, because remember, Trump put the tariffs up. That means, and it includes metals. You got to pay a tariff if you want to bring metals into the country. Plus, China, January 1st, is not going to send any gold or silver to outside of the country because of the urgency, the need as a strategic metal for all things China. So there's going to be a crunch in the industrial realm where silver is a critical metal. And so they've bought quite a bit of metal. And then, for example, the people that mint our coins made a huge purchase of silver a few months back and just got delivery. So they've got inventory they'll sell out of as the price goes higher, that they bought at a lower price, or they're really investing in it for later. But the guys were talking on this conference call on where do they see and why do they see silver going literally 4 times the price I think it's going to end the year at just in the next couple of years, because there's no mines that are focusing on silver mining yet. It takes even in the spool up in a perfect world, it takes a year or two to get ready to go do decent mining, to reopen the silver mines, if you will, in the U.S. We've been buying the silver out all over the world. Now that there's a tariff, it encourages domestic mining again, but the price isn't high enough yet. So there's going to continue to be a crunch on silver for quite some time. And I asked them, what price do you need silver at before you decide to turn the mines on? Well, of course, it depends on what the cost of money is. Cost of money is going down because of interest rates going down like that. And they'll continue to do that all through next year. But it was pretty across the board. It's going to be over 120 before domestic silver producing places switch from just bringing it in as an incidental part of other mining operations, copper and things like that, and just focus on silver. It's going to be at least 120 before they do it. So there's a lot of room for silver to go up fairly dramatically. And when I told people, 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, that silver had made the turn and now was going to leave this churning, this constantly up, down, up, down, up, down in a cycle, and buy the lows, sell the highs within a small trading range. It was about $4 trading range. And I talked about that extensively, that it was not a great investment for years, but it was great for speculators. And they were expanding the paper silver supply, but not expanding the physical silver supply. The speculative silver, more and more people were entering with silver contracts and then playing the market, and that's all that was going on. It suppressed real silver prices because it was deceptive. It looked like we had more silver, but there were just silver contracts. And that changed about 2.5 years ago. And when it did, that's when I came out with silver coins and tried to encourage people to be watching silver and doing things like that. And just to give you a comparison, I bought a fair amount of Canadian maple leafs because somebody that I knew had them. I would normally just bought the silver eagles, but I bought these Canadian maple leafs as a courtesy to somebody, and I paid $13.96 a coin. Today, Canadian maple leafs. Last night when I checked last night, they were selling for $80 a coin. So there may have been some dealers that were selling it for a little bit less, but by the time you do the shipping and everything else, insurance and the whole schmear for the same quantity as I got, it ended up coming out, it's like $79.90. It's like, oh my God. So
that's great.
And so you look at all the things that you could have bought. Now that was, I did that purchase, I think it was June of 2023. And, look at where it's at now, up there, near to 80. That's you couldn't do any other investments that were sound. So you can do all sorts of speculative investments, but you can do shorts, puts and calls, futures. You can go in the stock market, but there's almost no bottom to things when they go south. With the silver, I had physical silver sitting in the safe, and it's real, and it was never going to go to zero. So it was a pretty safe investment. Plus, when you know what's going on over at the Fed, when they were doing just these insane trades at the Fed, and continue to expand that, it was a pretty safe bet. It's a safe bet right now. With lower interest rates, what do you think is going to happen to money printing? They're going to print a whole bunch more. In fact, for people that are in the stock market, it's likely you're going to see a super bullish stock market again the stock market's not going to collapse. It's going to go higher because it represents real tangibles and real business. And Trump's bringing business back to America. And with lower interest rates at the Fed, because the interest rate's just ridiculously high, we're paying people to print dots and tittles on a computer screen. It's the most insane thing in the world. We're going to switch back to treasury operations. But in the meantime, getting there, they're going to print a whole bunch more money. And that money's got to go somewhere. Well, it's going to go in the stock market and push up stock prices. But I believe silver is still going to be a superior trade for, name 100 reasons for quite some time. And plus the fact that we're going to go back to silver and gold certificates at the Treasury eventually and shut down the operations at the Fed and move back to a Treasury operation as Kennedy was doing with the silver certificates. So that's coming.
I got a quick question for you. I don't know how much, if you got a scoot, obviously I know you're on the move, but
no, I'll take a minute. I appreciate you letting me come on with your folks for a minute.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. And guys, just so you, we're on YouTube, we're on DLive, only on DLive, YouTube, Pilled, and I think I set up for Pilled, but in the description box and the channels that I'm able to, like Pilled and YouTube and Rumble, there are links to Jennifer's, the Jennifer Mac, and then Juan's landing page and the Gumroad stuff. So you can check out his stuff down there. And we did have, before I just tackle this one really quick, we did have, who was that in the chat? Says, I love my Magador coin. I put that up on the chat so everybody could see that. But this is what I kind of wanted.
Well, you know what? Let me say this one quick thing. So it's used as a challenge coin also, okay? So when I was at Mar-a-Lago and I shook hands with Trump and passed off the challenge coin, the Megador to him, and he just signed a jacket and a piece of art. We sold it at an auction there at Mar-a-Lago for $25,000 for charity. And so it was kind of fun, but I handed off a Megador coin to him. And so you put the coin out kind of in your hand a little bit like this so you don't lose it. It doesn't fall out like this. You shake hands and you flip your hand like that. And then that's the handoff of the coin. So the other person pulls it back, knows they have something, they look at it.
Sorry, could you do that? Could you do that handoff part again? I had you off the screen.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So you have the coin in there. I should have one in my pocket here. But anyway, you have the coin in the palm of your hand, and then you flip it like that as you're shaking, and the coin goes into the other person's hand. That's a challenge coin that you hand off. In fact, Trump had a bunch of. He had, I think it was the Marine Band. Over at the White House the other day, and he handed off a challenge coin to each band member. They were out practicing on the White House lawn, and impromptu, he says, "No, bring them in here." And then he gave a Trump challenge coin to each and every one of them, which, they're worth real money. And so then I had handed off this Megador coin to him, and he looks at it. Oh, is that me? Oh, so I'm the Matador? Oh, the Megador. Oh, I'm the Megador. Oh, I like this coin. He puts it in his pocket. So he's reaching in his other pocket. He's looking because he usually has a challenge coin on him, and he just come back from golf. He didn't have any coins on him. He says, "Oh crap! Mine wouldn't have beat yours anyway." So he put it in his pocket. It was.
That's hilarious.
But he. I will tell you this. You see it in the pictures. When he's actually genuinely happy, he gets a grin on him, like the Cheshire Cat, okay? He gets this big grin on him, and you just can't, it's like you can't even fake it. It's just, because you can tell kind of it's a nice grin for a photo or something like that. But when he's really just like something, you can see the corners on his cheek and everything. It's just very fun. He'll show all the teeth, and it's just fun. You're right there, and there is. I'll tell you what, there is a vibe being around him that there's an intensity that everybody that's around him feels. He doesn't, even on the worst days, he doesn't rock around moping, whatever. He's on a mission, And so, everybody around them feels that energy, and there's an intensity that's always there. So anyway, just a little aside. I apologize for interrupting. I
No,
just
you're
thought
good.
I'd mention that. Yeah.
You're good. No, my question about and I'll set the table a little bit. From my early days of dipping my toe into the quote conspiracy world, which I don't think, as we're going to prove right here, is not really too much of a conspiracy. But the prevailing thought that I'd heard, people that I used to, that and still do to a certain extent, SGT report. Sean does a great job, and Dave X22. They'd have been saying for probably close to a decade, and I'm sure you probably were too, about companies out there artificially keeping the price of gold and silver down. So buying a bunch of shorts on paper or excuse me, delivering, paper, right? Oh, we just delivered, 2,000 tons, but it wasn't really physical. It was just like a piece of paper. So
that's right. Yeah.
So here we have JP Morgan's position shift. JP Morgan's decision to close its short position was a major market event coinciding with a tightening physical silver market and an ongoing short squeeze. From June to October this year, JP Morgan reportedly sold off its entire 200 million ounce paper short position in the silver's future market, leaving the bank with 0 short contracts for the first time. Concurrently, the bank...
Well, it was even higher than that. Really? It was 250 million ounces. And they liquidated all of them, all of those positions. And they had to be careful how they did it because they couldn't yell fire in a crowded theater. And in the meantime, they're acquiring physical silver like crazy. It didn't matter what the coin is. And they were getting physical bars and physical coin. And they're very well positioned because they see exactly what I just described to you, a massive roll up in the value of silver and gold. But if you look at silver compared to gold, it went up radically more than gold went up. Not just, a few percent, but many times a percent increase. And it's because silver was more suppressed during this period of time in its manufacture, its volume, et cetera. And all the silver miners, because they kept the price down while inflation's high, the cost of mining is high, and everything else, nobody wanted to mine it. It was just incidental silver in the course of other stuff. Now, because I have mining stuff, one of the things that we have is a lot of tailings from other stuff that as silver goes up where we think it's going to go, we'll go back into those tailings and pull out silver and focus on that and some other stuff that just wasn't worth the extra effort at the time. And that's gonna change here, at some point in the not too distant future. I expect that most of the mining companies, they've all been talking about it as, you hear rare earths and all that, and they're all getting ready to do something. If you actually go out and look how much they're actually getting done, very little so far. It's a lot of talk, but not, and promises to commit money and things like that. Not much is actually happening. It's going to be some time, probably next spring, before the real money starts to flow. Equipment starts to get purchased. They're still in a planning stage, and even then, they probably don't bring in real numbers for another year. Because a lot of times you get started and you're getting the bugs worked out of equipment and personnel and hours and all sorts of things. And then you start getting into a flow and getting serious. And, on one project that I'm on, they were expecting to only really be doing fairly minimal production for about 6 months before they actually crank the screws over further and bring on second and third shift, because there's just so many little bugs that you have to work through. You just don't realize, and you can't make a mistake and do something environmentally or other stuff. You've got to make sure that everything's working. You've checked and double checked before you start ramping up. So I think the silver's got a long horizon on it. Now, do I expect silver at 280, say, by March or something? No. But it is a steady rise. And the other way you can look at this, if they're going to print more money, which they're going to, and do it in large volume, which they're going to, as we move closer to a Treasury Federal Reserve handoff, they're going to revalue gold. The Treasury has a lot of gold on deposit. They have access to a bunch of gold that I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on or not. It's
At $42.
Yeah.
42.22.
And they're gonna,
right? They put a value on our gold. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so you have all this gold that's undervalued sitting in the vaults. In order to neutralize the debt, you can revalue it. And the revaluation in a pure perfect world would have to be about 20,000 an ounce. Silver would have a higher valuation likewise. And just also for one thing, you got all these experts. Okay. So let me just mention one thing for all you guys experts. You don't have to tell anybody I told you this, but don't run around overstating this 15 to 1 gold should be at 15 or 17 or 19 or it's going to go to 10, as though gold is the deciding factor in the value of silver and its percentage of gold because it's mined this way. It's this much percentage of the mining, a lot. Silver is an industrial material. And as America turns back on and needs massive amounts of silver for energy projects, and I don't just mean solar and stuff like that, we're going to different types of energy production. And so all of the contacts, all the server farms, in the AI thing, I have one of the guys out of South Africa that has numerous patents using kites, a very specific type of kite. And these kites cut across the wind back and forth. It's very complex. It takes a special type of program to take advantage of it. And unlike the little blades on a windmill for collecting the energy out of the air, the surface area is very small. They're very comparatively inefficient. And then they break up, they come apart. It's all these different things. It's a pain in the ass. They're just not cost effective. It's somebody's pipe dream. But with the kites, these kites grab hundreds of times more air in seconds. And these huge kites that are, 1,000, 1,500 feet up off the ground, run by computers. No environmental impact at all. And they pull a very heavy dynamo, if you will, around on a figure eight on a racetrack on rails. And it has a generator that it's turning in there as this kite pulls this very heavy piece of equipment around this figure eight. And all of the connections, what they want to use that for is for server farms and for AI. If you look at AI is going to use up, half the power of the country's creating.
Everything.
It's going to eat everything. All we're going to have is gray goo gobbling the earth up.
We'll have a bunch of robots and AI, machines, robots, and AI bots.
Don't talk disparagingly about the teenagers and the grade schoolers. Okay, yes, they are taking over the world. They're eating everything in sight. I can't find a cookie for my life. Depends on it sometimes because they've eaten them all. But the reality is, kids, these teenagers are taking over the world. If you want to talk about the threat, that's the threat, and they're moving and melding into the rest of the population. It's insidious. They keep trying to blend in when they're like 30 or something, and multiplying and having their own babies. We're under threat, constant threat.
Dude, so you mentioned cookies, right? So we have to take a little quick funny break. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of these, okay? And I'm not paid to do an ad on these. These are something, and it sounds like a fake name, And I'm very much want a chocolate chip cookie, peanut butter cookie.
Yeah, the basics, man. The
I love that
basics.
stuff.
I want dual 4-barrel carburetors putting out 500 horsepower, and I want to smell that exhaust. Okay, yeah, the basics. Just give me the basics.
Exactly.
Yeah, cookies with chocolate chips or oatmeal raisin. You know, what more do you want?
But I'm telling you, this one right here, somebody got these years ago, and I'll send you a link for them. I'm telling you what, like I said, chocolate chip, peanut butter, great. These are strawberry shortcake cookies made by a company named Otis Spunkmeyer. And previously, you could only get these, from what I understood, if you were doing like a drive for like the local pal, and we're gonna sell a bunch of cookies or whatever. But these strawberry shortcake cookies are absolutely to die for. They are the best cookies I've ever had in my freaking life, and it's been like 15 years since I've had one, and they ain't cheap either.
Well, you know, I can be bought.
I know, with cookies. I can be bought with cookies,
but I can't be bought if my supervisor's too close by. So I have to be very careful. You know, it's like you gotta pretend it's like the super secrets from some other countries, whatever. You gotta hide it under the bridge. You gotta put a cross on the telephone pole so I know to go look where it's at. Whatever. Actually, Jen, I will tell you this. Jen has got me reading labels more than ever before.
Oh, yeah.
On all the ingredients. And it's like, I think I'm buying something that's pretty good. And she will just, did you read that label? Seriously?
Oh my God, dude, it is bad. And you know what I learned the other day? This is pretty bad. When you go into, did you get your lesson on ice cream lately?
Oh my gosh. My lesson. I just had this. Oh my gosh.
Ice cream. And so everybody that's listening, my son, he likes these like Oreo ice cream sandwiches. And so after I learned this, I said, oh, hey, enjoy your last box of these, because I'm not buying anymore. And he's like, why not? He goes, you didn't have a problem in the past. I said, yeah, until I just realized that it's not even ice cream, right? A lot of these things, when you go in there, even if it's like a half gallon of what we would call, quote, ice cream, you have to look at the label, because a lot of them now say frozen dairy dessert or something like that. It's like, wait, why does it not say ice cream exactly? What's the difference? Like that.
Oh my God. Well, an orange sickle, man, that I could tell you stories. Oh my gosh. The main thing that Jen, I was on the board of a medical company for quite a few years, a long time ago. And I was the only non-doctor on there. And, one of the doctors was an expert in parasites. I mean, like a world-class expert, the guy. And the reason I even got there was because another friend of mine, Hulda Clark, was keen on the parasites. And this was a friend of hers, and one thing and another happened. I ended up in this medical board and board of directors. So anyway, I would get these stories about the latest thing that he's finding with parasites, what they're looking at, what he's doing, and it's like a sci-fi movie. You were talking about, like Freddy Krueger and stuff like that. Some of these stories, it makes your brain hurt, and and Bobby Kennedy, he talks about it in his book. He was starting to get foggy. He was starting to become he was afraid he was falling into dementia. And they looked and they're trying to counsel everything else. And this one x-ray guy looked at stuff they had a little differently. And he says, look right there. You got a parasite. Ugh. And it's a 4-inch parasite in his brain.
Oh, that's right.
And it's dead, because when they were x-raying and doing all the other stuff, the magnetic imaging and all that, they probably killed it with that. But there it is. If you got one, you got a whole bunch. But think about that. You wake up and, have I got, this disease, that disease, chemical imbalance? No, you got a parasite.
And don't most people have parasites? And whether
everybody's got some level of parasites, and you can get blooms depending on exposure by foods, water. So I had a relative that I had a location where I had a beautiful spot, and they lived up the road, and the water line from that area came right past my property because the road split my property. And just past where my place was at, there was a house that was an older house. And for some reason, something happened with their septic system, and it was going downhill, and the water line had cracked. They had old clay water lines that were like 100 years old, okay? And so apparently, some kind of a parasitic thing got into the water line, and it was being pumped up the hill and serving about 300 houses. And so one of the kids up there had to have his pancreas removed. And I'm like, what? This is like 25-year-old kid and pilot, perfect shape, athlete, everything else on an emergency basis. And I says, if anybody else have a problem like that in the neighborhood? That just sounds bizarre to me. And no, nobody knows. And then a couple of days later, do you know what? So-and-so had to have his spleen removed. And then so-and-so has part of his bladder removed and blah, blah, blah. And they find like 6 cases that had occurred over the last previous 6 months that nobody, they're just up in the neighborhood. Everybody thinks it's something unique. I said, you guys better do a check on the water up there. Now, me, I always buy the water, okay, and I don't trust anything, and I just don't even like to shower in it. I have filters and everything else, just because you live in foreign countries and all that, and I had got really hit hard with parasites from bird droppings back in the 80s when I worked in South America on something. And that's how I met Hulda Clark, and she's the one that diagnosed me and found the parasites that I got in my lungs. And so they start checking around. The water is absolutely infested with a couple different types of parasites. They literally shut the water off, tell everybody don't use any water, don't use it for showering, don't use it for anything. Because of these parasites, the kids up there, these young people with all these problems, and once people started looking, it was like 30 people with some kind of a horrible, effect from parasites. Well, it was simple enough to treat it once they knew what they were dealing with. But when nobody realized there was something wrong with the water, nobody had a clue. And some people didn't have as much of a problem because maybe they were had a different diet that didn't favor certain things. They had a different, blood chemistry for some reason. Maybe they didn't expose themselves at home because they did stuff other places at the club or the gym or something like that. And this was a very high-end neighborhood. This was not the riffraff. This was a very high-end neighborhood, and they were all shocked. So they had to go in and put all new water lines in. I think they ran plastic liners in all of the water lines, and they traced it back to this crack in the clay pipes that was literally just after my property. So everything up to my property was great, and literally the next house over on this, probably 5-mile run from where the water pumps were, they had a 600-foot deep well that had really pure water. It was really great water right up until it went through a crack in the pipe and you got parasites in it.
Ugh, that is so nasty.
Well, I mean, it's so nasty, and people are having organs removed.
Ugh.
And then what's wild to me is the doctors never saw or diagnosed the parasitic presence causing the organ failure. They just went in and said it's not working right, and we got to remove it, and it's infected, and it's got all these problems. Yeah, it's infected. What's causing it? Well, we don't know, but it's got to be removed. Okay, well, they removed. Had they known, I had people that said, if we'd known it was a parasite, they would not have had to remove the organ. They'd have treated it and got it taken care of. They were all emergencies when they finally get there because it just got so bad. And I think that's more common in society than people realize. and there's things you have to do periodically. I had a very one of the biggest people in Hollywood. I mean, he's not a star. He does management stuff in Hollywood. And just yesterday, as we were talking on another film that he's got going that will be epic when it comes out shortly. It's really well acted, and I know a lot of the details, but I won't say anything. And but he says, "Well, you're gonna have to, I got your wife to thank now because of the parasite thing. My wife and your wife talk, and I can tell you right now, my pipes are the cleanest they've been since I was born." I don't want to hear all this stuff. And he's like, "No, I got the pictures. It's scary. I don't ever want to talk about it again." And she'd had him on some parasite cleanse thing for like 4 months. And he said, but no, he lost quite a bit of weight. And he said, his experience was, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And then he says, and don't even ask my wife, because she'll show you the pictures, everything else. You don't want to know this stuff. I want to live in oblivion. I'm glad I'm all cleaned out. My wife forced it on me, but it's the way it is. But I think we're going to extend a lot of people's lives as they go back and pay attention to this. And ancient cultures knew this stuff all the time. The first time that I really became aware of this, I was in a certain country, and where we had other things going on, troop stuff in neighboring countries. And so I was talking with one of my contacts, and he kept saying, I've got to go check on my dad, and I've got to blah, 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 and all this stuff. And he needs, I got to stay right with him. And so we're talking, and finally this one day, for whatever reason, he tells me, it's so gross. He's got like 5 parasites coming out of his body, and you can't just pull them out. So once they break the skin a little bit, and sometimes you'll cut the skin, then you take a twig, a little stick, and you twist the parasite around the stick, and you have to take it out. It takes a couple of days. Ugh. And to pull them out, if you break them, they'll poison them, and they excrete stuff. And this was common in this country. All sorts of people. Man, I'm not touching the doorknobs. I'm not touching the car doors. I'm not touching the paper. Nothing. Where do you get them? You just get it. Contact. It's and stuff. We don't know, but it's common here in the country. And I've mentioned that some of my guys, no, just nuke that place. Just nuke it. We're done with it. Don't ever go back there.
Well, and there's other places too. Like I remember seeing, if you ever seen this show, it's like, I forget what it is, but they do like this study or whatever, and then they put 2 people from different countries together to like get married. I think it's called like Married at First Sight or whatever. And this like super nerdy dude from the United States meets this like, pretty decently hot, Brazilian girl. And so he goes there, and she's like, oh, come on, let's go in the water or whatever. And he's putting on this like huge like net suit and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I heard about parasites. She's like, yeah, just don't pee. And apparently these ones, they follow your urine and go right up your pee-pee hole. And then it's all sorts of bad from there because it has the spikes. And oh, dude, that's like one of my biggest fears. But, hopefully some of these things can be taken care of by, like, is that, did we figure out that yes, ivermectin and fenbendazole and this stuff works to get rid of some of these things?
Well, the thing, actually, that's an important thing for everybody in this audience. Ivermectin and fenbendazole do waterborne parasites pretty doggone well. They only hit about 20% of all the different types of parasites. And you have about 30,000 different kinds of parasites that are, in humanity. But they fall into, a couple dozen basic groups.
I got a tapeworm on the screen just by happenstance right now. Just literally looking up things on a microscope, and one of them was it was a cat's tongue, which looks like a bunch of tongues under a microscope, and then this is a tapeworm head that looks like a friggin' alien with jagged, pointy teeth. Oh my god, dude.
Okay. So, I had a friend, very, very famous industrial from the 50s and 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And when I was telling him what, this is like maybe 82 or 83.
Oh my God.
And I'm telling him, that I'd gotten some parasites in my lungs and my eyes, and it came from bird feces, probably in this area that I was in. And we're talking about it. And he said, well, we had a neighbor when I was growing up here in Hollywood, and that neighbor was famous as helping actors and women and like that to lose weight. And he guaranteed he helped them all lose weight. They were all very famous. And the studios would call him in and they'd help keep the stars' weight under control. And you know what his secret was? No, what? The pills he was giving them, they were tapeworm pills. And he'd put them on tapeworms. He'd monitor them. And then when they'd lost enough weight, he would give them the thing to kill the tapeworms. He wouldn't tell them what it was. He'd tell them that you're going to, and then they'd literally be just, flushing out like crazy. So one of the people had to go to, I think, to the Mideast to film a movie, one of the big desert movies, a big studio movie, right? And didn't get the antidote. And they're over there and literally pulled a tapeworm out of their mouth. And it was huge, and it was the grossest thing. And then when they were looking at this and looking at the stuff, they found a couple other people that had similar experiences, and they tracked it back to this doctor who wasn't a real doctor and his pills for losing weight, and it was tapeworms. Oh my gosh. I
would imagine you don't feel so good when you have tapeworm either. You probably feel run
well,
down.
but I mean, can you imagine having one so big that it comes out, its head's coming up? That's just so gross.
Give me the closest prop gun. Give me Alec Baldwin.
Actually, people adjust around parasitic presence too. It changes their chemistry and like that. So some of the literature on this, because I've been looking at a lot of it because Jen's been doing research and getting further and further on. People when they're emotionally, mentally off key, a lot of that may very well be chemical imbalances from tapeworms or from parasites. And all you need for an example is what Bobby Kennedy said. He was getting foggy. He didn't understand what was going on. Something was wrong, but they just couldn't find it. If it's in your brain, does it, for example, I had a friend, a very good friend. He was a deputy U.S. attorney, and he actually was U.S. attorney, one of the U.S. attorneys for a certain area for a period of time. And his wife calls me one day, and he's probably 62, 3 years old. He's still active, but semi-retired from about 6 months earlier because he was starting to have like some health issues. She calls me up, could you come over and talk with my friend and see what we can do to help him? He's just struggling, and let me know what you think. So I get over there, had a great conversation for 5-10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it got weirder and weirder. And he went off in places that, and I'm like, this is a guy that's one of the greatest legal minds, one of the greatest investigative minds on planet Earth. I mean, he worked, he was the one that really managed a particular scam down in Florida that was extremely famous. And he was the guy behind all this stuff. So, I mean, I had all this admiration for him. And it was clear that something was wrong mentally. And I said, I don't know if you feel it, but I think you do. You're not putting your words together right. And then some of the stuff you're saying is not coherent. Are you feeling okay? Is there something wrong that, I need to help you address? And at first he was, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then just as I'm getting ready to leave, and I told his wife, yeah, there's a problem. He comes over and he says, I can't remember your name, but if I kind of recognize you, but I can't remember your name. But look, there is a problem. If you could just call somebody and have them come over and see if they can give me a pill to fix this, that'd be great. He had rapid onset dementia. And within about 4 or 5 months, because literally a couple days later, he started to become violent. This is like the gentlest guy I know. Okay, he's just super laid back his entire life, very soft spoken, almost to a fault. And he became physically violent with his wife. They were like married when they were like 17. They were sweethearts in grade school, if you can imagine. And they'd been married forever, and all of a sudden he just started getting violent. Well, I think about that, and I mentioned it at the time. Is it possible that this is something even related to parasites? Well, the family, the kids, everybody's involved. Nobody's looking at the doctors and everything else. They're just this rapid onset dementia. It's a common thing, and he became literally physically violent, to where they had to put him in a home, and even at the home, they were restraining him. If something was going on in his brain, that could kind of account for that. I wish that we had maybe somebody that could have looked at him that way, but it just wasn't the situation that allowed for it. But I think a lot of mental illness may very well be trackable to some type of issue with different types of, there's so many different types of parasites that you can get. These microparasites that they're saying are the cause of these blood cancers. And they're smaller than a blood cell. They get in the blood cell. I got to tell you this one thing, and it's out there in the internet. Young doctor guy, Asian, pricks his skin and puts the blood on a slide, puts it under the microscope. And he says, see those? And these little microparasites, smaller than the blood cell, probably 10% the size of a blood cell, are swimming around in the blood serum. And then you see some of the blood cells have these inside the blood cell. And you're like, oh my gosh. And those are microparasites. And then he takes the same slide, and as I recall, it was his own blood, because he pricked his own fingers, as I recall. He puts it over a Bunsen burner, and he heats it up. He has a gun, reading the temperature. He gets up to 160 and holds it 160. Well, when you think about meat, the temperature that you need supposedly to kill any parasites and things like that in the meat that you're cooking is 160. So you cook the turkey, you got to get it to 160. You put a thermometer in the turkey to make sure that down in the core of the turkey, it gets to 160. Even though it might be, 250 or 300 on the outside of the skin, you got the meat down inside. So you got to make sure so you don't get sickness from uncooked meat or undercooked meat. So he puts this thing on there, and then he puts the slide back under the microscope. I mean, the blood cell is dead and gone. All of the parasites, they're not moving. They're dead, okay? And then he sets the slide off to the side. He comes back 5 hours later, and he says, look at this. And he puts the slide back under the microscope. The blood cell is deader than a doorknob. The parasites are moving all over in the blood serum. They aren't dead. The heat got them, they're like whatever, but they're back to life. The 160 didn't kill them. And he's like, my concern is that our meat supply, people, aren't getting it to a level that it gets rid of them. But he said, but the other problem is even in vegetables and fruits and things like that, you can have, things. So your audience is going to be jumping out of trees. Okay. So over in Hawaii, you get fresh fruit. So over the last few months, and I really think Jen and I have actually started a problem. It's because it's becoming more and more people are paying attention. So there's a warning from the health department that you got to wash your fruit really well. And if you see any slugs, you know, you got to be careful they haven't penetrated the outer skin of the fruit or vegetables. And so wash them really good. Why? Because what happens is the mice and the rats that live, you know, out in the fields and like that, you're not going to stop them. In their urine, they have a particular type of a parasite that's common, you know, in these ground animals. If the slugs slide across where these rats have urinated, which they're always leaving trails to mark their territory and all that, that parasite gets on the slug. Then the slug goes onto the fruit or vegetable or whatever and transmits it there. So then you get it in your system, and it's a super nasty little parasite. Screws up, you know, causes your sex organs not to work right, okay? It makes you feel like you got diabetes and things like that. All sorts of stuff. You gotta go to the restroom every 15 minutes type thing. And so they warn that you've got to be very careful that the fruits and vegetables that you get, even at that, are clean because of these slugs carrying the parasite from the mice and rats. And so it's just more common so many places that you just don't think of it, the stuff coming in from other countries like that. You know, you got to wash your food. There's other stuff you can do. They even pulse it to kill anything that's on the food. But we're in an environment right now. If you're just doing with your own yard, your own stuff, you kind of monitor it. Maybe you're a little bit better. But with these huge industrial operations, vast, you know, farm operations, you know, it can be a problem. So everybody kind of has to up their game a little bit and go to more of a little bit of a maintenance thing. And, you know, there's, you know, it's cheap. Hydrogen peroxide is like a miracle, and it kills a lot of parasites off. Very, very cheap, and you can do it with the aerosolized, and there's a few books out there on it that do it. I think at the end of the day, as Jen says, we should all be living to 120. But the parasites are killing us, is what's going on. Hulda Clark believed the same thing. It's the parasites that are killing us. We're not dying of old age. We're dying of parasitic presence, and it's cumulative. And as you get a little further on, you get a little older, they just get tougher and been there longer. And you know, it damages your system, your organs enough. You finally die of one parasite
I'm the
or
one
another.
responsible.
So I don't think that's exactly wrong. There is a problem. We should all be aware of it. So, you know, anyway.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Yeah. And, you know, that's, you know, I think we need to get back to being like the way it used to be decades and decades ago, where more people were, you know, getting your own food and making your own fruits and vegetables and stuff like that and sustaining.
I bake my own cookies. I'm not letting anybody else have the fun of baking their own cookies. That's part of the fun in life, you know.
Otis Spunkmeyer, don't forget where you heard it first, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, I'll tell you what, if you even enjoy anything along the flavor of strawberry shortcake and you try these cookies, you don't like them, I think you have to be an. But just saying,
might have a parasite in the brain. You don't think straight.
you just might. But yeah, dude, this is gonna be an interesting time as we go here. I'm not gonna ask you to predict anything, but do you think we're gonna get any eye-raising situations before Christmas?
Well, there's certainly been all sorts of scuttlebutt. The 12-12 thing, it's all, everybody knows it's going to be some kind of crisis, and then other people, it's before Christmas, and if they know of something specific, report it to somebody. But they're all claiming it's going to be 9/11. We know it's going to. Well, okay, is it airplanes? What am I supposed to watch for? I got to go into the bunker. Is it earthquakes, solar stuff, space aliens? what am I supposed to watch out for today? And I think there is, it is valid that we do kind of have to look at certain windows where, the risk might be higher. Look, we're getting ready to do stuff in Venezuela. We're threatening to go in there and deal with business. They've got all the gangs here. You listen to some of the statements that these gang members have made that are here that we pick up, and what they intend and believe they're going to pull off against America. It's scary, to anybody that's reasonable. But the other side of the coin is that's why we're, tightening up. There's a lot of people that they didn't come through the front door. We don't know who they are. We don't know what's going on. So we need to, send them back out, bring them back in legitimately. A lot of them are going to self-deport, already have. A lot more to go. I don't know if you saw that the immigration stuff, they just made deals to purchase their own aircraft. As opposed to having airlines doing it. We're going to literally, because you have so many people we want to send home, and it's so expensive, we're going to cut costs by having our own airplane fleet to fly people back home. We're not slowing down, we're doubling down. We're increasing the rate of flow to send people back home. We'll help them a little bit there, help their countries, help them do their own vote, get real leaders that represent. Remember, the guys that we have here in the U.S., who were the ones that flipped the vote electronically in 2020 to match the paper ballots that were shipped in by China. Their testimony is, their affidavits are, they're already talking to grand juries. They're already being brought in for testimony. So this isn't hopium playtime. It's real deal now. They say that they stole or flipped the election in 71 countries plus the United States. Can you imagine? So as we go back to get people, why did people have to come to the U.S.? Because the corruption, the evil, the tyranny in all those places was so horrible. They had to pick up and leave and come here because they thought this was sanctuary, and they were paid to come here. We help them go home and fix their situation. They probably don't want to be here.
Right.
And we want strong countries. We talk about make America great again, but we want them in their countries to be great again also, because we want strong partners, good business. When you have race teams, because I've had a couple of race teams over the years, more than a couple, and love the cars, love the boats. But you have to have, the better the competition is, the more interesting it is for other people to show up and follow it. And then it's just, you get better. And you'll see, it's common. You see it even in the movies, they show it, where somebody will have an issue. They're there to race. They'll lose some critical part that they can't replace, and somebody else has one. And the guys will loan it to the other team, being good sportsmen that go out and make it, it's good sportsmanship to help somebody else out. That, they'll pay them back, they'll get it later. It's just a time thing, and you want to have a good competition. That happens more often than people realize in behind the scenes in the racing world. Now you have some things where they'll never talk to that guy again, except go punch him in the nose. But there's a lot more camaraderie there, because you need, in order to even have the ability to go out and have sponsors and have good races and make it worthwhile for the fans and all that, you got to have people out there able to compete. In the business world, if I've got strong partners in a particular country that has cobalt, and we have other things that we can make, and the cobalt's a key ingredient, I want those guys strong. And yes, I'm going to try and get the best price I can. But the other side of the coin is, if the price is so low they can't afford to produce it, then they're not going to produce it. So I got to be able to be a good enough businessman to get a good price and yet enough that they can sustain themselves and take care of themselves and be safe and be environmental and all that. So, that's this moment that we're in, is we're going to help. Besides getting our own elections under control, we're going to go out to the rest of the world where we know that they have people in leadership that are the wrong people. They got there through fraud, and help the people replace that leadership and get the country back on track. Venezuela was one of the wealthiest countries in the Americas, 30 years ago. And through corruption and direct attacks on them, inside, led by Cubans and Russians, and later China, they've become one of the most impoverished places on planet Earth, literally. And so Maria Machado, we exfiltrated her out of Venezuela the other day. She's a Nobel Prize winner. So we went in with a team and took her out. And we had a couple of F-18s flying top cover while they did it. When we get Maduro, get him into custody, there's a $50 million bounty on him. A bunch of the generals around him will take that bounty, cash it amongst themselves, and turn him in probably before it's over, unless he gets killed, because he won't come out. But when Venezuela throws off Maduro and the Cubans and the Russians and Chinese, they're going to have to rebuild. We want them to rebuild, because they'll stabilize not only their own country. There's a lot of people here that would like to go back to Venezuela. They just can't go back because it's so dangerous. And get it halfway under control to go back home, because they'll be able to make big money. Venezuela has the raw materials that make countries very, very wealthy, people very wealthy, with oil and lots of other stuff. So,
yeah, it's going to be a huge situation over there, and he's taking big ass oil tankers and whatnot. So we'll see how this movie along as we keep going down the road here.
Can you see it in the Situation Room, the big board? Okay, yeah, okay, that's a battleship. Okay, I want to just grab that tanker right there. I'm taking that tanker. Line them up. Okay. Oh yeah, that's a really big one. I like that one. You know what the deal is, though? They're looking for contraband in those tankers. They suspect that there's other contraband in there, and so that's what they're ripping through those tankers to find what they believe is there. So let's see what happens. It's gonna be fun. But they also don't, we don't want to do the money. And by the way, Rick Grinnell, former ambassador, and Pam Bondi, and a couple of other people around Trump, agency heads like that, were trying to get Trump to agree to letting Chevron do a multi-year deal down there in Venezuela with the Maduro government. And they were going to make $50 billion on oil with Chevron, okay? At the same moment that this is going on, and picture Pam Bondi is head of Justice Department, right? The deputy director of Justice Department, Todd Blanche, who's been mucking things up a bit with the Tina stuff and some other things on pardons and stuff that we need to do, he was getting a $50 million bounty on Maduro. Okay, got the grand jury testimony, got him indicted, and then put a bounty on him as a terrorist funding drug trafficker, blah, blah, blah. How is it that you can have Pam Bondi trying to help Chevron get this big oil deal, and her deputy director over at Justice Department trying to indict Maduro? I mean, it's who's not talking to who? Okay. And there was and Rick Grinnell, he had a meeting, I know the details of it, over at the Kennedy Center with people from Chevron. And they're trying to get him to do this deal. Well, everybody at the time, and we've been talking about this for quite some time, there's film of that a certain intelligence agency, not U.S., has Well, they have it, but they know where it came from. Where Grinnell is with an underage boy at the time, 15. And he's gay, and they're having a relationship thing. So how is that being used as blackmail potentially for, say, Grinnell to try and pull off this oil deal? Is somebody got some goods on him that it's like you want to get a $50 billion deal in there for Maduro so he can stay in power. At the same time, we're trying to get him taken out as a terrorist, mobster, drug syndicate leader, Tren de Aragua, coordinator, etc. It just doesn't make sense. Well, we got a lot of cleanup to do, and there's a lot of people that are going to get taken out of office before it's all over with. So anyway,
Yes. Hey, I'm not going to put you on the spot here. This will be a yes or no answer, and we'll get you out the door here.
No, you can't have the keys for the car. I'm not. You don't. I'd have to train you for a week before I'd even let you freaking drive the thing. Too much horsepower. You're going to go out and get yourself hurt or break something.
I wanted the combination to the lock on the cookie jar. No. No. So in the past,
you know what? I do sometimes hide in the safe. the one that Jen doesn't have the number to. So I go in the safe the other day to grab some silver, and I realized, you know what? If you have the right kind of a cookie, they don't ever truly die. You just have to rehydrate them and use them, dip them in the coffee, dip them in the cocoa. That's the time-tested and proven way to bring cookies back to life that may have dried out in the safe a little bit too long.
That's crazy.
I went to pull one of my. I have a couple of Bentley convertibles, so I went to go grab one to take it to have something done, serviced on it, and I hadn't even been in the car probably in 8-9 months. And on the back seat, I had like 3 cookies in the little bag that I had got, because I remember when I got it, I was driving, like 800 or 900 miles, and I thought, well, I might want a couple cookies on the trip, and they had some particularly good ones at this place. I thought, well, I'll just grab 3 of them, and then if I want, I can have them with coffee over the next day or two. I forgot all about them. They sat on that seat. They were sitting there for like 8 months. But I was sitting there looking at them going, well, there's no mold. They don't look moldy. I was desperate enough. I was thinking about it.
Oh, no.
Dip them in the coffee. So, yeah.
So here's my yes or no answer here. Okay. And my son's showing me one of the gifts that he got somebody for Christmas here. So my yes or no answer, and you already said no, but I think the answer is yes. But I don't want to lead you. So back in the day, there was a nice video where they were trying to bag you. I think it was Will Summer, and he said, "Oh, Juan's the leader of the Q movement. Everything, whatever Juan says, do. Everybody does." But the key part that I just want a yes or no answer about was, and I think we've already talked about this in the past in the details and whatnot. But he said, this is why I have a very special connection to you, is he said, I think it was back in the early 90s, he was up to some anti-Clinton business. True or false? Yes or no?
That I was?
That you were up to some anti-Clinton business. That's what he said anyways.
Well, I mean, I was there. I was there in Arkansas in 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, with all of the Whitewater stuff before he even became president, and trying to nip that in the bud. Because, he was being pushed by David Rockefeller to the moon. In fact, when just a little tidbit of information for everybody out there, when Ross Perot was running against Clinton, and you had a Bush-Ross Perot Clinton thing. What Ross Perot was in there doing was to divide the votes on the right, the conservatives that would go for Bush. And supposedly there's horrible rivalry between Perot and Bush 1. And so, but, I was working with, for example, Larry Patterson became a good friend. He was Bill Clinton's personal head of security while he was governor of Arkansas. And he was an Arkansas state trooper, 30 years, great guy. And pretty straight arrow within that zone. Anyway, he could shoot straight. That's why they liked him. He could shoot with a 38. You could shoot like nobody's business. He was unreal. And he always used a revolver. But anyway, so the deal with Clinton was he was talking. Larry would have to call people and hand the phone over to Clinton over and over and over because he's providing his security because he's still governor of Arkansas until he became the nominee for the Democratic Party. And then Secret Service came in and he was still there, even with Secret Service, because he was still governor of Arkansas. So anyway, he would be fielding the calls where Perot is calling Clinton 5-6 times a day, coordinating their campaigns and what they're saying. And when Perot is saying, he wouldn't even be a mid-level manager in any of my corporations, he doesn't have the skill set. What he's doing is he was stealing votes from Bush, dividing the right, so that Clinton could win by default because they wanted 20% of the votes to go to Perot. They wanted 30%, or less to go to Bush, and the rest of it to go to Clinton because you divided the right. And then Clinton wins by default. And that's exactly what happened. He got less than 50% of the vote, but he got more than, the other two candidates because, Perot ran as an independent. And you think, well, why would they be coordinating that? When Perot got out of the race for a period because his daughter was having a wedding and he blamed Bush as trying to attack him and destroy the wedding and everything else, so he dropped out of the race. The day he got back in the race, and you can go back and check the history. You want to go back and see if what I'm saying is true. His head of security was visited by head of security over from David Rockefeller in Dallas. And he came over and he found head of security. He says, hey, you need to have your boss on the plane in the morning. There'll be one out here for pick him up. And my boss wants to talk to him. And so the plane will be wheels up at 6 a.m. And, Mr. Perot is, blah, 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 blah. I don't even want to say where he's at, but I know where he's at. And so he says, no, he will be on the plane. And the history you have to understand about Perot is his company, EDS, which did all the check, writing and for all the big state-run organizations, the first big computers to reconcile bank accounts for state accounts. It was David Rockefeller that guaranteed the $50 million that he needed to be able to put up the bond for these state accounts, New York, New Jersey, all this other stuff. So he made him, he can break him. So David goes and does the meeting. And when he had dropped out of the race. And then he comes out of the meeting and he literally is pale, he's kind of weak, gets on the plane, has a couple of scotches on the way back, tells his people to set up a news conference at the airport in Dallas. And according to my contact, he said, well, I have to be back in the race by sunset or I'm going to have problems. That's what David said. He gets there and he sits down in the outer office, the town there in Arkansas on the lake. I can't think of the name of it now. they have a Rockefeller estate. They have their own runway that goes right up to the house. And so anyway, when he comes out of there, he's kind of been read the riot act. And he gets back, he goes to the airport. He talks about he consulted with his good friend, David Rockefeller, and about the situation in the country, the state of the country and all that, and has decided to get back in the race and, continue on. Well, that was because he got told, you don't get back in this race, you have a problem. Well, the issue was Bush was climbing against Clinton. And they wanted to guarantee that Bill Clinton was going to be president. Well, the deal is Bill Clinton is a hidden Rockefeller. His dad was Winthrop Rockefeller, okay? And so his dad isn't the, Army private rolled his car over in a ditch. Supposedly went on one date with his mom and became pregnant in 1942. Bullshit. And that's why he got to the White House, get on the front lawn at the White House and with Kennedy and then with a bunch of other guys. The picture you see that's out in the public is cropped. The wider picture, Winthrop Rockefeller's in the corner because he's the one that took the group of boys to D.C. to get, he was governor of Arkansas, and to get a chance to meet John Kennedy. And then Bill makes this famous statement, well, I just want to be president. So, and sure enough,
he was big time. Ultra. Remember that video of him just being dumb, getting the makeup put on? Can we do more of these? Can we do more?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much stuff I could tell you. Going to Haiti for their honeymoon, he and Hillary. Oh my gosh. And that relationship isn't what you think it is. But I don't want to lose people for now.
I got you.
But strange bedfellows. At the end of the day, yeah, I spent a lot of time in Arkansas, and worked with quite a few people there on different fronts, and I had some history there in the early '80s related to South America and like that. Before I went and did the stuff on the Russia stuff, so. I knew the train, knew some of the players like that.
So the answer is yes. Oh, just really quick one.
Yeah.
Who was the guy the guy's name that you said was the shooter? Was that Larry Nichols?
Well, the shooter in what? Larry Nichols was a close friend, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right. So Real News had dropped a Rumble rant. It says, Space asked Juan if he knew Larry Nichols. So I guess there's your answer.
Oh, of course.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Knew him well. I mean, Larry...
kind of like a fixer a little bit for them, right? And then kind of
he was doing that, someday maybe I'll go into some of that more, but ADFA and everything else. Remember Larry was there in Honduras, was doing deep cover stuff. He was a Navy SEAL. But when we were having the Nicaragua stuff and the Sandinistas and the Contras and all that, Larry was there on the ground working with the rebels as a U.S. contractor, tracking the Russian activities in that area. And back when we had the Boland Amendment, we weren't supposed to be doing anything, and that was what he was doing, and mapping and tracking some of the drug flow and like that. So it's more complicated than most people have the mental bandwidth to want to know. It's really important, but it's an important story. It's the problem is most people don't want to know it. Even like the stuff related with the Rockefeller operations out of Arkansas and into the rest of the country. If you get right down to it, much of what President Trump is fighting goes to these Rockefeller operations. Even like I was mentioning the Chevron thing. Well, what's it tied to? Chevron, Standard Oil, Rockefellers. Okay, and a far more influential family out into the shadow government than most people have any starting point to even understand or want to understand. But it's very crucial. If you don't know those players, you don't understand what's going on with, say, CIA or SES. The greatest threat to America right now, the greatest threat to every single person in this audience right now in the United States is senior executive service. The shadow government, Cheney's running it, until he died. That's the greatest threat to freedom in America. And they're the ones that are doing these false flags, including 9/11, Oklahoma City, Sandy Hook. Yeah, I said Sandy Hook, and all this other stuff. Okay. And by the way, SES has got its grimy little paws on Palisades, Paradise, Maui, and 100 other fires with directed energy weapons. It's a very serious situation. Before it's all over, and I think it will have to be led by the firefighters. Everybody else is too political. Trump needs to be approached formally. Some people want to do Mandami and out of New York because he's the mayor and all that. Bullshit. Firefighters and firefighter families need to coherently, as a group, from across that area and across the country, formally request that President Trump, they need to get an audience with him. They need to request him to set up a presidential commission to get to the bottom of 9/11 and other related false flags that were coordinated and run through U.S. intelligence agencies. And SES is right there. SES is right at the top of it. It's painful. People are looking for other countries, other intelligence agencies as being the cause. No, they're all coordinating. They had NATO involvement. There was a NATO false flag. There was a NATO exercise being run. Exactly what happened: aircraft crashing into buildings on 9/11. There was an exercise scheduled that day that was live. That's why some of the fighter aircraft were questioning, well, am I supposed to actually respond to this? This is an exercise. We were tuned up. This was an exercise. And there was a previous one 6 months earlier that was a practice. So, and Oklahoma City, how does he have a TR-71 domestic reconnaissance aircraft right over Oklahoma City the second it blows? What the fuck?
Coincidence.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence. And then what happened to that aircraft and pilot too. So anyway, there's a lot there to be done, but I probably better get at it. I've got a tight schedule, really. I wanted to do this with your listeners concerning Tina because I wanted people to understand, like USA Today, they're saying that it's just a show thing that Trump gave the pardon to Tina. And it's just for show. Bullshit, it's just for show. Just watch. Those people don't know what they're talking about. Trump is all in. This was not just a exercise in futility to give this pardon to Tina. He is all in. Shit is going to be happening, and it's all going, the fan is turned on full strength, and it's going towards Colorado, and they're about to be in a shitstorm. And by the way, 6 months ago, when they were doing some of their grief related to Tina and like that, that's when we switched from just an inquiry to a criminal inquiry into activities within the elections systems in Colorado. And nobody's hearing about that. It's all gone away. No, it hasn't. Okay. 2020, it's not over yet.
That's it, baby. Hey, I appreciate you coming on today. And like I said, anytime you need to pop on and we get any big news or anything that you need to get out quick, I'm your guy. Just shoot me a text and we'll get you right on in.
Okay. Well, and by the way, I've got, I held the prices on the silver, over at Gum Road, over at allpatriots.gumroad.com.
While the prices continue to rise, by the way.
Right. Yeah. I held them. I knew it was going to kind of go up and come back and correct just a little bit. And I had purchased a couple of months ago when the prices were lower, anticipating this. And we've got, I think, 2 purchases left that we are going to get in under the wire before the end of the year, but the prices are moving pretty hard. And I don't expect these prices to stay here. I expect them to go up significantly still. Anybody that bought silver that we had, nobody's lost money on the silver that they bought from Jen and I. And Jen has the single stuff and I have the volume. So.
Yeah, and again, guys, all the links are down in the description box there. You got the Jennifer Mack page, you got the Gumroad page, you have Juan's landing page there as well. And, Juan and myself, separately and together, have been screaming from the rooftops about, grabbing physical gold and silver for a very long time. So, like he said, it's never going to be less than the dollar. And you're only helping yourself by grabbing, physical silver and gold for sure. So,
Yep. Yeah.
Appreciate it, brother.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, I have a couple. I just signed them, and I'm going to drop them off here today. I think I got a dozen signed Megador jackets, and there's something coming next week that is going to be kind of fun. That I think people are going to want to be able to have their jackets out and wear them more. I think it's kind of a neat little thing that's going to happen. So, anyway, if you want to get one, there's a couple of them over on the site that are signed. You can get them unsigned and. Sweet. Yeah, anytime. We put a couple of them on there, and so anyway, that's it. I appreciate it much. And you know what else? Got a Megador tie.
Oh, you got a Megador tie too?
It's the funnest thing. I wore it the other day. I was actually in my shorts, and I was going over to see a friend at one of the hotels and have my lunch, and so I just wanted to show him the tie. So I'm walking, my shirt's out, I'm wearing my shorts. I walk in, I sit down, and one of the other people in the group says, "Oh my gosh, it's the Megador on a tie. That's so cool. Can I have your tie?"
What? Like, what?
And so they took the tie back, and it's to their husband, who is a very famous person in the political arena, that was going back to give it to them in their office, and I expect that to pop up somewhere. So that's kind of fun, but it is really cool. It's just fun stuff. We're having fun, and in the midst of all the other drama, all the other crises, and prayers for Tina. By the way, the health issue is real. But still, take a deep breath. Beautiful day, the fall. I just love the fall. You got your health, you got your wits about you, you got your family, you're wealthy. If you don't have silver and you can't afford it, you'll be fine if you have something to trade for it over the next year or two. Your skills, your genius, your invention. It's not. It's about trade-offs and like that. So some people get it, they have it, and then they want something that you got. Things stabilize, you'll get all you want. Take a deep breath.
Heck yeah.
So.
All right, brother. Well, if we don't talk before Christmas, you have yourself a Merry Christmas. But I expect we never know. We might talk.
I think we'll be talking. I think something's going to happen that we're going to have to have some conversations on.
Awesome. All right, brother. You have yourself a great rest of your day. Looks sunny there. It's sunny here, but it's like 20 degrees out. So, but hopefully it's better for you there.
Well, it's about 50, I think, here right now. So that's pretty cool. So.
That's balmy.
Anyway. I'm gonna go put the top down on one of the convertibles, drive it around for an hour or 2 or 3, have some fun.
Rub it in, why don't you?
Yeah.
All right, brother. You have yourself a great one. I appreciate it again, and like I said, anytime.
All right, bro.
Thanks.
Talk soon.
Have a good one. Bye. All right, that was Juanito, guys, and let's hope we can get Tina Peters out of captivity sooner than later. It may come down to kind of what I was posting here the other day, guys. Here it comes. Are we going to have a showdown of state versus federal? And as I mentioned, Peter Tickton, who's President Trump's longtime friend and Tina Peters' attorney, is going to try the method, in my opinion, of the part in the pardon clause that says crimes against the United States. It has always been assumed that a president can only pardon for a federal charge. Now, I also mentioned this on Table of Titans, so if you guys didn't catch that last night, I'm just going to give you a very quick summary as to the 3 cases in history that were not about this specifically, but did touch on it. So we got 1866 ex parte Garland case. Says the court called the pardon power unlimited for federal, but did not even hint at stretching it to states. It was all about wiping out federal guilt and penalties. Basically, it says basically the theory you're floating about reinterpreting United States to sneak in charges. Then it goes back into 1925 ex parte Grossman case. All right, that was Garland, and this is Grossman. The justices were flat out said those words were added to the Constitution to draw a line between federal offenses, what the president can touch, and state offenses, hands off. Then earlier in 1877's Young versus the United States, they put it bluntly, quote, if there is no offense against the laws of the United States, there can be no pardon by the president. So state versus federal again. Now, I don't know if Juan ever got around to it, but he gave me a little summary here. So he says, good news, President Trump issued a pardon for Tina Peters. Bad news that Governor Polis has made it clear that he will not allow federal intervention into a Colorado state case, and he's not letting Tina out. What is not widely understood is that this was fully anticipated in research. President Trump is on very solid ground on multiple bases, and multiple attorneys have vetted the process ahead. Keep it simple. Federal law was broken by Colorado. Judge Matthew Barrett refused to let the jury hear the defense. Federal law requires the evidence be preserved. 41 motions were denied. The jury never got to hear the truth. Mesa County Clerk Peters is the only clerk in the state of Colorado that preserved proof of Secretary of State Jenna Griswold's authorization of the deletion of state and, very key words here, state and federal election records illegally. Dominion vote systems did the deleting in violation of their contracts in both state and federal. And then three things. And actually, guys, as I'm going to be wrapping this up, anybody that you guys know is live now. I think Joe Rambo and them are live. So if you have no other people to raid, I'm going to probably raid you guys into Joe Rambo's podcast as soon as I'm done with just a couple of minutes. And he said three things. One, President Trump is about to reassert federal authority concerning pardons that existed prior to Lincoln. Just like a previous court was wrong about Roe versus Wade, the states have been wrong for about 150 years on presidential pardon authority, which is about to be challenged hard, and Trump will win, just like he did when Colorado courts unanimously worked to remove him from the ballot, and Supreme Court unanimously trounced the Colorado courts and put him back on the ballot. So I know he definitely discussed that part. Two, the clerks manages, collects, tabulates, reports, protects election data for the U.S. House of Representatives under federal authority. This has been forgotten and overwritten over time. It is about to be revisited. 3, Trump is going to declare a national emergency concerning elections. When he does, and I see people in the chat saying, oh, well, we've heard this before and whatnot, but we've not seen the supporting information become widespread or mainstream like it has been recently, right? All this stuff, we've been screaming it, we've known about it, we've been yelling about it, but they've been denying it or just ignoring it for years. But a lot of this stuff is actually finally coming out. So, and we are already under probably 5 different national emergencies as we stand right now, because he just keeps doing them. So we're under a constant state of a national emergency anyway. For extra credit, Tina can assist and could be a witness and whistleblower concerning prison conditions and failures in the Colorado prison system. That is also now an active federal investigation. Remember, the Justice Department's investigation concerning vote fraud in Colorado became criminal investigation 6 months ago. That's not an earthquake, he says. This is Juan's words. Not an earthquake. It may have started as chest pounding by the governor and other state officials. Soon, it's going to be knees knocking in the Capitol buildings of Colorado. So very, very interesting stuff out here, guys. I'm going to do myself a little Rumble commercial here, guys. I don't know if I've basically said this on a live stream or not, but essentially, this is now my full-time gig, at least for the next couple of months. So we'll see how this kind of plays out, but I plan on going live more, and I'm going to be doing more uploads to Rumble and YouTube of a shorter format, anywhere between 7 and 20 minutes at max, uploading certainly every day that I'm not live. Maybe take 1 day or 2 days off for the week, but I will definitely be doing that more often. You'll see more uploads from me as well. So let me just do this one. This is interesting because I don't know. I've always been really interested in, for whatever reason, magnets, and I always thought that magnets would hold some sort of a thing for the future as far as technology. But we'll see. We'll see what this one's got to say here. All right, guys. This segment is sponsored by Snark Magnets TM. Certified, made in Alaska, and packed with attitude. These are durable, affordable magnets featuring quotes like, "Witness the void where I once cared," or "Your approval is not required." And another quote, "I drink coffee for your safety." Snark Magnets TM helps you get the message across without having to explain yourself. Every magnet is made by a small creator produced in Alaska and built to survive daily life and your personality. Support a small business and help spread the snark. Use code RUMBLE10 for a 10% off your entire order at thingsofholding.com. That's capital T for things, capital O of OF, and then capital H holding. Thingsofholding.com. Boom. Interesting. So some personalized magnets there. I was more along the lines of thinking like, you push a magnet together on the wrong side and they oppose. Like there's pressure and there's force there. Then you go over and you look at things that people like Edward Leeds Scanlon did over in Coral Castle in Florida. Clock, I guess you could. Coral Castle, I called it a clock. Let me see. Clock in the screen. Here we go. So this guy made this stuff so this is the guy right here, Edward Leeds Scanlon. This guy was, I think, Lithuanian, very small guy, like 5'1", 2, 3, something like that, 140 pounds. But he was able to move these many-ton blocks and stones and stuff like that with a simple winch, like a wooden winch with basically hand cranking power. And so this thing right here, let me pull this up here because I don't want to go into any documentaries or whatever, but so basically this thing right here, all right, I got it muted. That's good. So basically these things right here, this guy made this is the part I want to show you. So this machine right here, it's kind of like a wheel of a clock, right? And it has, I think, more lines on it than, say, a clock would. And I forget the exact makeup of it, but there were magnets, and it was either plus plus, negative negative, or plus negative, plus negative, plus negative, whatever the case may be. And as soon as he started to spin that thing, spin it, all of a sudden it just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning. Now it had a wire, as you can see here, like a lead that attached to it. And he said anything that he would touch this machine to and bring the wire to, so like say a 10-ton block of quartz or granite or whatever the case may be, it would reduce the weight by like 95% or something like that. And he said something along the lines of he knew the secrets of pyramid builders. So maybe that's how they were moving all those heavy blocks. They found a way to harness some sort of vortex energy to lighten the weight of these things. But some of the things this guy did in here were absolutely crazy. Like they had certain blocks that were put on hinges that you can literally move with like your finger because they're weighted so perfectly. 30-ton blocks this guy was moving with a simple winch. All these blocks. Claimed to have built his lost love, Agnes Scuffs, for whom he called his Sweet 16. So he made this for this woman who I think inevitably married some other man and never fell in love with him. I believe that's how the story went. But reverse magnetism or supernatural abilities to move and carve the stones. I would say reverse magnetism or something having to do with that stuff. So as we're on the way out of here, guys, like I said, I'm going to read the chats to see if you guys had anybody in mind for me to raid. And The Foxhole, where One Thunder has gifted the can. So thank you for that, One Thunder. No message on that one. I am releasing the old scratchings. I think I went over. I can't find my buddy TNFM's channel on YouTube. I think it's toast. Susie Q, Patriot Chick, and Debbie Roush are the top 3 contributors over here. I am dropping. I'm losing diamonds every year. 50 diamonds going into the bucket. Now we got 58.1 diamonds coming at you. You guys are making diamonds off of me over in D Live. It's actually pretty funny. So that's all set over there. Pilled is all set. The chest is coming at you in 19, 17, and counting over there. Well, let me say hi to the folks over here quick. How you guys doing? How many folks are over there? And from the best of what I gathered yesterday, guys, and let me know in the chat right here, guys. I'm over in the YouTube chat. I can see everything. Yeah, nice to hear Juan not being interrupted. I cannot stand that when people start. You have a guest on, you want to hear what they want to say and not interrupt them every 6 seconds. So usually wait till you get a pause or he says okay or whatever, it takes a drink. Yeah, I just don't like the interruptive interview, so I appreciate that. So I asked this yesterday, guys, and from what I gathered from my quote study or research on YouTube, let me know in the chat, guys, if I did not have this video on YouTube right now, would you have watched it on Rumble or D Live or Build or whatever? So just say no or yes. Yes, you would have watched it on one other platform, or no, you wouldn't have watched it. Because I'm trying to gauge whether it's worth me to even be posting on YouTube because of how shitty of a platform they are. Pardon my French, but they are. And they're always playing games over there. So I'm thinking of telling them, giving them the big middle finger and doing it publicly. And maybe seeing if, Rumble, Chris Pavlowski will help me out and say, hey, give me a little boost and we'll put out a nice public video where a bunch of us will publicly denounce YouTube and get rid of my 150,000 follower channel and say, peace out, because you're not really helping me much. We got 151,000 wonderful world patriots that are subscribed to YouTube. And, I crested 10,000 views the other day, guys. Believe that? On a video, 10,000 whole views. Whereas that would have been my bare bucket back in 2019 when I had 60,000 followers. Right? So big time differences that they play. So, yes, you would watch. No, yes. Okay, so we got no, yes, no. I'm going to keep watching these on the way out, guys. So, anybody else have any idea? Oh, I just thought I didn't know you were answering somebody D-Storm. He says, yes, Grinnell. I just saw the part where it says Grinnell is gay. I'm like, yeah, of course he is. He's very gay. Yes, he's very, very. How about YouTube found on Telegram? Awesome. Good. AC Bowser, Rumble exclusive. I am banned on YouTube forever. Bad. It's. Oh, yes, very, very good point here. Montana Geology Tours. Thank you. It says FYI, a lot of counterfeit Chinese, quote, silver coins out there. Sure to get from verified sources. eBay has even been reported. Scammers all over. So yes, there are people just trying to absolutely scam everybody everywhere, guys. So do your due diligence. Only buy off people that you know are reputable. Even, go to like local pawn shops. They'll put a drill right in that sucker. Bring a drill and drill a hole right through that bad boy. Make sure. Benny Johnson's. What, the gay story? Do I believe there are closeted homosexuals out there? I always busted Benny's balls because I'm like, he so wants to be Tucker. And I don't know if maybe he had a romance, or a crush on him or whatever. But I always thought he wanted to be Tucker. So I don't know. Never know. I mean, did anybody see the, you know what? Let me pull this up quick. Actually, you know what? Instead of pulling it up, I'm going to upload a picture. Matthew TNFM, if you happen to be listening, buddy, I am on a show. Let me see. I asked him because I remember he did Cody and Scott did it. So I know Matthew T and FM used to do interviews with Cody Snodgrass, but I thought he did a couple with Larry Nichols. I could have sworn we did an interview with that he was on a long time ago, but I'm probably mistaken. Okay, so I'm trying to upload this picture for you guys. Did anybody see the interview with Tucker and Milo the other day? And I don't know if he's like all drugged up or what the case may be. But I kept noticing in the interviews, his eyes looked all screwed up. Like big time screwed up, like crossed almost. I'm like, I'm not, just taking inopportune photos here. Wheezy's having that problem again where they signed her out for whatever reason. So Wheezy, I almost signed myself out of Rumble the other day by typing a message in the chat and then going to hit the emoji button. So let me see if I can kind of show you guys what I mean. Yeah, Milo seems to think so. He's the guy that was doing the saying essentially that Benny's gay. So basically, I went in here and I wrote something like hello or something like that, and then I went up to hit emoji, and I think I maybe clicked on this or something like this, but it did pop up the sign in, sign out thing, and I was like, oh no, you have clipboard history, which I don't know anything about this, but literally the other day I was typing a message and then I hit right click and then up to emoji, and I accidentally, I don't even know how I did it, but it basically, it gave me the sign in screen. So I was wondering maybe she did that accidentally. All right, guys, I am going to do a little outro for you guys. Only the brackets and jackets, because that's the only thing allowed on the YTs. And then I'm going to bring you guys over to Rambo and Friends. For the Rumble Studio, I have to raid 5 shows, which I would have probably raided him anyways for you. But prerequisite to the Rumble Creator Studio, and seeing as this is my 24/7 job right now, I definitely all I can do to protect myself and get income coming. That Creator Studio allows a little bit more income for some of us creators that do take part in that studio. So as I always say and truly do mean at the end of the show, thank you to the mods out there. You guys rock, and I always appreciate each and every last one of you wonderful world patriots out there for tuning in. Until that next one, thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Peace.
Hello, guys. Something special is happening in here. That's right. It's brackets and jackets. Bringing it back for brackets and jackets. Special Epstein Island edition. That's right, folks. Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, the man with the island, which is suspiciously close to Haiti. That's right. You see this man, Jeffrey Epstein, is funding lots of people. He's funding lots of people on the street to make sure his shit doesn't get out. That's right. They want the record sealed. And they're paying a lot of people. Epstein's paying a lot of people. Oh boy. For one, he's got a whole Mossad media matrix in America. And I would bet you anything that Alex Jones is one of them. Prove me wrong. That's right, Cappy's in the portal. Cappy's in the portal. Cappy's in the building with songs about Epstein. It's Breakfast Jacket's Epstein edition. Guys, I had some epiphanies today. I had some real big epiphanies about some guys A big network of guys and spies and lies and liars. All right, think about this for a minute, okay? The guy in Portland, the scientist that just got busted for producing CP, that guy is 1 degree of separation away from Epstein. Epstein, the investor that lives in West Palm Beach, Florida. I know a guy who lives in West Palm Beach, Florida as well. Investor as well. Also involved as well. And all is not well with these guys. The Florida boys, the Glow boys, the Scott Israels of the world. You see, Epstein is Hillary Clinton. And Epstein is Haiti. And Epstein is a big network of media assets. By the way, did you know that Steve Bannon was going to that guy for money? Also, Epstein is Epstein Oprah. Epstein is Chris Tucker. You remember him. Epstein is also Kevin Spacey. Epstein is also Prince Andrew. Epstein is also... Who else is Epstein? Who else is Epstein? Tell me. You guys know? Who else is Epstein? Is Epstein Big Pharma? Is Epstein Bryan Singer? Is Epstein Naomi Campbell? Yep, all of the above. All of the above. Who is Epstein? Epstein is the keystone of a whole motherfucking matrix. And once you pull it out, it all falls down. Dersh was there too. That's right, we're dropping red pills every day. And red pills in the best kind of way. This is brackets and jackets for the denizens of islands.